The massive space station called Harmony 7 floated in the empty space between 3 star systems. Ships from dozens of different worlds had come here for one reason. The Galactic Council had created a new test. Every species that wanted to become a Tier 3 civilization had to pass it first. Captain Mark Torres looked out the window of his transport ship. He had never seen so many different alien vessels in one place. The human ship looked small next to the giant Corvani warships. Their black metal hulls were covered in weapon ports and armor plating. The Kef vessels were different. They looked like floating crystals made of silver and blue light. "First time seeing the big players up close?" asked Dr. Lisa Park. She was the team scientist and had studied alien cultures for years. "Yeah," Torres said. "Makes you realize how new we are to all this." The human race had only joined galactic society 50 years ago. Most other species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans were still the new kids trying to prove themselves. Their ship docked at Harmony 7. The station was huge. It could hold 1 million people easily. The main hall was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Torres saw the tall, proud Corvani warriors walking in perfect formation. Their blue skin had patterns that showed their military ranks. Near them, the Kef moved in groups. These aliens looked like walking stick insects made of metal. Their large eyes never stopped moving as they calculated everything around them. "Welcome to Harmony 7, said a voice. Torres turned to see a Villani approaching them. The Villani looked almost human, but their skin was pale gray and their eyes were completely black. They were known as the smartest psychologists in the galaxy. "I am Dr. Nex," the Villani said. "I helped design the test you will take today. Please follow me to the briefing room." The briefing room was full of different species. Torres counted at least 30 different alien races. Some he recognized from his studies. Others were completely new to him. The Corvani sat in one section, their backs straight and their faces serious. The Kef had formed a perfect circle and were sharing data through their neural links. Dr. Nex stood at the front of the room. "You are here because your species wants to advance to Tier 3 status. This level gives you access to advanced technology, trade agreements, and voting rights in the Galactic Council. But with great power comes great responsibility." The room was silent. Everyone knew how important this test was. "In the past, we judged species by their technology and military power," Dr. Nex continued. "But we learned this was not enough. Some species got advanced technology and used it to destroy themselves. Others became so powerful, they threatened peaceful worlds." Torres nodded. He had read about the Zarian Empire. They had passed all the old tests, but then tried to conquer half the galaxy. "So we created a new test," Dr. Nex said. "This test looks at your mind, not your weapons. It checks if your species can handle the pressure of being a major galactic power. The test will show you situations that are very difficult. We want to see how you react when things become impossible." A Corvani warrior raised his hand. "What kind of situations?" "I cannot tell you the details," Dr. Nex replied. "But I can say this. The test will push you to your mental limits. It will show you things that should not be possible. It will ask you to make choices that have no good answers. The purpose is to see if you can stay sane and functional when reality itself seems to break down." Torres felt a chill. The way Dr. Nex described the test made it sound like psychological torture. "Each of you will enter a testing chamber alone," Dr. Nex explained. "The chamber uses advanced holographic technology to create completely realistic experiences. Your brain will believe everything you see is real. The test usually lasts 2 hours, but inside the chamber, it may feel like days or years." Dr. Park leaned over to Torres. "That sounds terrifying," she whispered. "The good news," Dr. Nex said, "is that nothing in the test can actually hurt you. Your body will remain safe in the chamber." But your mind will experience everything as if it were real. When the test ends, you will remember everything that happened. A Keth representative spoke up. Their voice sounded like metal scraping against metal. What happens if we fail the test? If you fail, your species must wait 100 years before trying again, Dr. Neck said. During that time, you will remain at Tier 2 status. You will have limited access to galactic technology and no voice in council decisions. The room erupted in quiet conversations. 100 years was a long time to wait, especially for species that lived shorter lives than others. We will begin testing in 1 hour, Dr. Nex announced. The order has been randomly selected. First will be the Corvani, followed by the Keth, then the Altarians, and so on. Humans will be tested near the end of the schedule. As the beings filed out of the briefing room, Torres noticed something. The older, more established species looked confident. The Corvani warriors walked with their usual pride. The Keth calculated odds and probabilities with their usual calm. But some of the newer species looked worried. Torres and his team were given a waiting room. It had windows that looked out into the main testing area. They could see the entrance to the testing chambers. Each chamber was a simple white door with no markings. Look, Dr. Park said, pointing at the first chamber. A Corvani warrior was entering the testing room. He was huge, even for his species. His blue skin had the gold patterns that marked him as a general. Corvani were known for their courage. They had won wars against species with better technology just by being braver and stronger. The door closed. Behind the general, a timer on the wall started counting. 2 hours. Torres and his team waited. Other species were also watching from their own waiting rooms. Everyone wanted to see how the first test would go. 1 hour passed, then 90 minutes. The Corvani in the observation area looked confident. Their general was strong. He had fought in real battles against real enemies. How hard could a psychological test be? At exactly 2 hours, the chamber door opened. The Corvani general stumbled out. His blue skin had turned pale gray. His hands were shaking. His eyes were wide with terror. He looked like he had seen the end of the universe. Medical teams rushed. To help him, they put him on a stretcher and carried him away. The other Corvani stared in shock. If their strongest warrior could be broken by the test, what hope did anyone else have? Dr. Park grabbed Torres's arm. Did you see that? He looked completely terrified. The next test began immediately. A Keth representative entered the second chamber. The Keth were known for their logical minds. They could solve mathematical problems that other species found impossible. Surely their intelligence would help them pass the test. 2 hours later, the Keth emerged in an even worse state. The alien's metal-like skin had lost its shine. Its large eyes were unfocused and empty. It had to be carried out by medical staff. One by one, representatives from different species took the test, and one by one, they came out broken. The proud Altarians, masters of space technology, emerged crying. The wise Zentari, known for their philosophical insights, came out in a state of complete mental collapse. By the end of the day, 15 species had taken the test. All 15 had failed. Torres watched the medical teams carry away another broken alien. Tomorrow would be the human test. He wondered if his species would join the growing list of failures, or if Earth's children had something different that might help them survive what others could not. Captain Mark Torres woke up early on the second day of testing. He had not slept well. The images of broken alien representatives kept playing in his mind. Every species that entered the testing chamber came out looking like they had seen pure horror. Dr. Park was already awake, reviewing data on her tablet. I've been studying the test results from yesterday, she said. The medical scans show extreme stress responses. Heart rates going crazy, brain activity spiking. Some even showed signs of trauma. What kind of test is that to people? Torres asked. "I don't know," Dr. Park replied. "But we'll find out soon. You're scheduled for testing in 3 hours." Torres ate breakfast but could barely taste the food. Around him, other humans were quiet. Everyone knew that their species' future depended on this test. If they failed, humanity would stay at Tier 2 status for the next 100 years. "Attention all human representatives," came an announcement. "Please report to Testing Chamber 7. Captain Torres, you are first." Torres stood up. His team members wished him luck. Dr. Park squeezed his shoulder. "Remember, whatever you see in there isn't real," she said. "Right," Torres nodded. "It's just a test." The walk to Testing Chamber 7 felt longer than it should. Other alien species watched him from their observation windows. Some looked curious. Others looked sorry for him, like they were watching a man walk to his execution. Dr. Nex was waiting outside the chamber. "Captain Torres, are you ready?" "As ready as I can be," Torres replied. "Good. Remember, nothing inside can physically hurt you, but your mind will believe everything is real. Try to stay calm and think clearly. The test will begin as soon as you enter." Torres nodded and walked toward the white door. It slid open with a soft hiss. Inside was a simple white room with a single chair in the center. There were no windows, no decorations, nothing except the chair and white walls. The door closed behind him. Torres sat in the chair and waited. Suddenly, the room disappeared. Torres found himself floating in space, looking down at a blue and green planet. It was Earth, his home. The planet looked beautiful and peaceful from up here. Then he saw it. A massive black hole was moving toward Earth. The planet was being pulled apart by gravity. Cities crumbled. Oceans boiled away. Mountains turned to dust. In minutes, everything Torres had ever known was gone. His heart started beating faster. The monitors in the real chamber recorded his stress, but Torres remained in his seat. He had seen disaster movies before. This looked terrible, but he knew it was not real. "Interesting," he said to himself. "Very realistic graphics." The scene changed. Now Torres was standing in a burning building. In front of him were 2 doors. Behind door number 1 was his best friend from childhood, Jake. Behind door number 2 were 1,000 strangers. He could only save one group. The other would die in the fire. Torres thought about it carefully. "This is a classic moral problem," he said out loud. "No perfect answer, but if I had to choose, I'd save the 1,000 people. One life versus 1,000 lives. The math is simple." He opened door number 2. The strangers ran out safely. Behind him, he heard his friend screaming as the fire took him. Torres felt sad, but he had made his choice based on logic. The test continued. The scenarios became stranger and more impossible. Torres found himself in a world where gravity worked backward. Water flowed up instead of down. People walked on ceilings. At first it was confusing, but Torres adapted quickly. "Okay, new rules," he said. "I can work with this." Next, time started flowing backward. Torres watched his entire life happen in reverse. He became younger and younger until he was a baby. Then he disappeared completely. But instead of panicking, Torres found it fascinating. "That's actually pretty cool," he said. "Like watching a movie in reverse." The scenarios became even more bizarre. Mathematics stopped working. 2 + 2 = 7. Circles had corners. Straight lines curved in impossible ways. Torres studied these new rules like a scientist examining a new discovery. "Well, this is different," he said. "But if these are the rules here, then I need to learn them." The test showed him watching his entire species evolve backward. Humans became primitive apes, then simple animals, then nothing at all. Torres watched humanity's entire history get erased from existence. "That's depressing," he said. "But if humans never existed, then I'm not really human, am I? So maybe this is just a different timeline." In the observation room, Dr. Nex was staring at the monitors in confusion. Torres's stress levels were high, but not dangerously high. More importantly, he was still thinking clearly and even making jokes. Other test subjects had been screaming by this point. The test entered its final phase. Reality itself began breaking down around Torres. The laws of physics stopped working. Cause and effect became meaningless. Torres watched as effects happened before their causes. He saw his own death happen before his birth. Okay, this is getting really weird, Torres said. But he was still analyzing the situation instead of breaking down. The ultimate test began. Torres found himself in a universe where hope was physically impossible. The fundamental forces of reality prevented any good outcome from ever happening. No matter what anyone did, everything would always get worse. Success was not just unlikely. It was against the laws of physics. Torres sat in this hopeless reality for what felt like hours. He studied how this impossible universe worked. So if hope is impossible, he said, then I need to find a different approach. Maybe I can work within these rules to find something that's not quite hope, but serves the same purpose. He began theorizing about ways to create meaning in a meaningless universe. If traditional hope was impossible, maybe he could find hope in the impossibility itself. It was like solving a puzzle with pieces that didn't fit. As the test reached its end, Torres experienced one final scenario. He existed as both alive and dead at the same time. His body was in multiple places simultaneously. He was simultaneously winning and losing every battle, loving and hating the same person, succeeding and failing at the same task. Torres looked around at this impossible situation and actually started laughing. This is like one of those jokes about the cat in the box, he said. Except I'm the cat. Suddenly, everything stopped. Torres was back in the white room, sitting in the chair. The door opened. Dr. Nex was waiting outside with a confused expression. Captain Torres, how do you feel? Torres stood up and stretched. Tired, he said. That was quite a workout for the brain. Some of those scenarios were really creative, especially the one where reality had different rules. That was actually kind of fun to figure out. Dr. Nex stared at him. Fun? Well, yeah, Torres said. It was like the world's most complicated puzzle. Really hard, but interesting. When do I find out if I passed? Other alien observers were gathering around, staring at Torres in amazement. He looked tired but not broken. His eyes were clear. His hands were steady. He was even smiling a little. Captain, Dr. Nex said slowly, you are the first test subject to exit the chamber in a functional state. Everyone else required medical attention. Torres looked surprised. Really? It was tough but not that bad. I mean, I've had worse days. Dr. Park ran over and hugged him. Mark, you did it. You're okay. Of course I'm okay, Torres said. Why wouldn't I be? It was just a test. But as Torres walked away from the chamber, he didn't know that his calm reaction had just changed everything. The galactic psychologists were scrambling to understand how a human had not just survived, but actually enjoyed parts of a test that had broken every other species. The real mystery was just beginning. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been studying alien psychology for 15 years. She was the human team's expert on how different species think and react. When Captain Torres walked out of the testing chamber looking normal, she knew something important had happened. I need to see the test data, she told Dr. Nex the next morning. Dr. Nex looked uncertain. The test scenarios are classified information. We cannot share them with test subjects. But I'm not a test subject, Elena said. I'm a scientist studying the results. Torres passed when everyone else failed. Don't you want to understand why? Dr. Nex thought about this. The Villani had designed the test to be perfect. No species should have been able to pass it easily. The fact that a human had not only passed, but seemed to enjoy parts of it was deeply troubling. Very well, Dr. Nex said. But you must sign agreements that you will not share this information with other test candidates. Elena agreed quickly. An hour later, she was sitting in a secure room with a computer terminal. On the screen were detailed recordings of every test scenario that Torres had experienced. She started with the first scenario, Earth being destroyed by a black hole. Elena watched Torres's calm reaction and nodded. That makes sense, she said. To herself, Dr. Nex was sitting nearby, monitoring her review. What makes sense about watching your homeworld die? Humans see disaster scenarios all the time, Elena explained. We have movies about asteroid impacts, alien invasions, nuclear wars, plagues that wipe out civilization. A black hole eating Earth is terrible, but it's not a new concept for us. Elena continued watching. The moral choice scenario with the burning building came next. Again, Torres had handled it logically instead of emotionally. This is interesting, Elena said. He treated it like a math problem instead of a personal tragedy. But those were his friends dying, Dr. Nex said. How can he be so cold about it? It's not cold, Elena replied. It's practical. Humans face impossible choices all the time, in wars, during disasters, in medical emergencies. We've learned to make hard decisions quickly. She moved on to the scenario where gravity worked backward. Torres had adapted to the new rules within minutes. Elena started smiling. What is amusing about defying the laws of physics? Dr. Nex asked. We do this all the time too, Elena said. Human children play games where they pretend the floor is lava, or they imagine they can fly. Adults play video games with impossible physics. We're used to adjusting to weird rules. Dr. Nex looked confused. But these were not games. The subject's brain believed they were real experiences. That's the point, Elena said. Humans are good at adapting to new realities, even when they don't make sense. Elena continued through the test recordings. The backward time scenario, the math that didn't work, watching humanity evolve in reverse. Torres had treated each one like an interesting puzzle to solve. When she reached the final scenarios, Elena started laughing out loud. Dr. Nex looked offended. I fail to see what is humorous about psychological torture, Dr. Nex said. It's not torture for humans, Elena said, wiping tears from her eyes. These scenarios, they're just Tuesday for us. I do not understand. Elena turned to face Dr. Nex directly. Tell me about your homeworld. Velanus Prime is a peaceful world, Dr. Nex said. We have controlled weather, no dangerous animals, stable geology. Our society has been peaceful for over 10,000 years. Right, Elena said. And the Corvani homeworld? Corvan is a military world, but well organized. Strong government, clear rules, disciplined society. And the Keth? Their world is perfectly logical. Everything follows mathematical principles, very predictable and orderly. Elena nodded. Now let me tell you about Earth. She pulled up a data file on her tablet. Earth is what the Galactic Council classifies as a Class 12 death world. That means it's barely habitable for intelligent life. Dr. Nex looked at the classification. I did not know this. Most people don't, Elena said. Earth has massive storms that can destroy entire cities. The ground shakes and splits open without warning. Mountains explode and cover the sky with ash. The weather changes from freezing cold to deadly hot. Diseases appear that can kill millions of people. She scrolled through more data. We have animals that hunt us for food, plants that are poisonous to touch, water that isn't safe to drink, air that sometimes isn't safe to breathe. And that's just the natural disasters. Dr. Nex was reading the data with growing amazement. How does your species survive? That's the point, Elena said. We learn to adapt to impossible situations. When the rules change suddenly, we change with them. When reality becomes dangerous and unpredictable, we find ways to cope. She turned back to the test recordings. Look at this scenario where hope is physically impossible. Other species saw this as the end of everything. But humans? We've lived through times when hope seemed impossible. We learn to create hope even when it doesn't make logical sense. Elena pulled up historical records on her tablet. We survived ice ages that should have killed us. We lived through plagues that wiped out half our population. We fought wars that lasted decades. We faced extinction-level events and kept going anyway. But how? Dr. Nex asked. By treating impossible situations as normal, Elena said. When something terrible happens, humans don't usually break down completely. We adapt. We find humor in dark situations. We make the best of bad circumstances. She showed Dr. Nex a video from human history. It showed people making jokes during a war while bombs were falling around them. This is how humans handle stress. We laugh at danger. Dr. Nex watched the video in confusion. They are making humor while their lives are threatened? Exactly, Elena said. When things get impossible, we often laugh about it. It's a survival mechanism. If you can find something funny about a terrible situation, you can handle it better. Elena went back to the test recordings. She showed Dr. Nex the moment when Torres started laughing at the scenario where he existed as both alive and dead. He wasn't laughing because he was crazy, Elena explained. He was laughing because the situation was so absurd it reminded him of a joke. Humans use humor to deal with things that don't make sense. Dr. Nex was taking notes frantically. So humans are psychologically adapted to chaos? More than that, Elena said. We're adapted to thrive in chaos. Most species develop civilization by making their environment safe and predictable. Humans developed civilization while living in an environment that was constantly trying to kill us. She pulled up more data about Earth. Natural selection on Earth didn't just favor intelligence. It favored adaptability, resilience, and the ability to function under extreme stress. The humans who survived were the ones who could stay calm during disasters and find solutions to impossible problems. This explains the test results, Dr. Nex said slowly. Exactly, Elena replied. Your test was designed to break civilized minds by showing them chaos and impossibility. But chaos and impossibility are normal for humans. We've been dealing with it for millions of years. Elena stood up and looked at the complete test data. The scenarios that terrified other species were just reminders of home for Torres. Gravity reversing? We have earthquakes. Time flowing backward? We have confusing situations all the time. Reality breaking down? We call that Tuesday. Dr. Nex sat quietly for a long moment. If this is true, then our test is not measuring psychological fitness. It is measuring adaptation to chaos. Right, Elena said. And species that evolved in safe, controlled environments never learned how to handle chaos. They're psychologically specialized for order and predictability. While humans are specialized for disorder and unpredictability, Dr. Nex concluded. Elena smiled. We're not broken or crazy. We're just from a world that taught us different survival skills. Skills that apparently work pretty well when reality stops making sense. Dr. Nex looked at the test data again. I need to report this to the Galactic Council immediately. This changes everything we thought we knew about psychological fitness. Good, Elena said. Because I have a feeling there are other species out there from dangerous worlds who might surprise you too. As she prepared to leave the secure room, Elena thought about all the primitive species that the galaxy looked down on. Species from harsh worlds, dangerous planets, unstable systems. Maybe it was time for the galaxy to reconsider what advanced really meant. 3 days after Dr. Elena Vasquez presented her findings to the Galactic Council, an emergency meeting was called. The council chamber was filled with angry voices from different species. The humans cheated, shouted General Corax the Corvani, Representative. His blue skin was darker than usual, showing his anger. They had unfair advantages because of their primitive world. The test was flawed, said Professor Kim of the KEF. It did not measure true psychological fitness. It only measured adaptation to chaos. Dr. Nex stood at the center of the chamber, looking calm despite the chaos around him. The council has decided that the human result was valid, but incomplete. We need more data. Captain Torres was also in the chamber, representing humanity. What kind of more data? We are designing a new test, Dr. Nex announced. A test specifically created to challenge human psychology. If humans truly are psychologically superior, they should be able to pass any mental challenge we create. Dr. Vasquez felt worried. What kind of test? A test that targets human weaknesses instead of human strengths, Dr. Nex replied. We have studied your species for the past 3 days. We know what frightens humans most. The chamber fell silent. Even the angry alien representatives wanted to hear this. Humans fear social isolation, Dr. Nex continued. You are pack animals who need connection with others. You fear betrayal by loved ones more than death itself. You fear meaninglessness, existing without purpose. You fear being powerless to protect those you care about. Torres felt his stomach tighten. The Villani had done their homework. We have also identified scenarios that should exploit human psychological weaknesses, Dr. Nex said. Extended periods of hopelessness, social rejection, watching loved ones suffer because of your choices, and being forced into meaningless existence. That sounds like torture, Dr. Vasquez said. It is the same principle as the original test. Dr. Nex replied, we are simply using scenarios designed for human psychology instead of general galactic psychology. General Korax smiled with satisfaction. Finally, a fair test. Let us see how well humans handle real psychological pressure. The council voted. The new test would be given to 1 human volunteer. If they passed, humanity would be granted Tier 3 status immediately. If they failed, humans would wait 200 years instead of 100. I'll take the test, said a voice from the human section. Everyone turned to look. Lieutenant Jake Morrison stepped forward. He was younger than Torres, maybe 25 years old. His brown hair was cut short in military style. Jake, you don't have to do this, Torres said. Yes, I do, Morrison replied. If we're going to prove humans can handle anything, then let's prove it properly, Dr. Nex nodded. The test will begin tomorrow. Lieutenant Morrison, are you prepared for scenarios designed specifically to break human minds? As prepared as anyone can be, Morrison said that night. The human team held a meeting in their quarters. Dr. Vasquez was reviewing everything they knew about human psychology. The Villani are right about our weaknesses, she said. Humans do fear social isolation. We're not designed to be alone for long periods. And betrayal by family or friends hits us harder than most things. But Jake has advantages, Dr. Park added. He's military trained. Soldiers learn to handle stress differently than civilians. Morrison was quiet, studying files about the original test. The thing is, he said finally, they're designing this test based on general human psychology. But I'm not a general human. I'm a specific human with specific experiences. What do you mean? Torres asked. I grew up in Detroit during the water crisis, Morrison said. My family lost everything when I was 12. I spent 3 years homeless. I've already lived through social rejection and meaninglessness. I know what it feels like when hope seems impossible. Dr. Vasquez looked thoughtful. That might actually help. You've already survived some of the scenarios they're planning to use. Maybe, Morrison said. But they're going to make it worse than anything I've actually experienced. The question is whether I can remember that it's not real. The next morning, Morrison walked to Testing Chamber 7. A crowd of alien representatives had gathered to watch. Everyone wanted to see if the special human test would finally break a human mind. Dr. Nex was waiting with a team of Villani psychologists. Lieutenant Morrison, this test is designed specifically for your species. It will target your deepest fears and weaknesses. Are you certain you want to proceed? I'm certain, Morrison said. Remember, the experience will feel completely real. Your brain will believe everything is happening. The scenarios may feel like they last for years. Are you prepared for that? Morrison nodded and entered the chamber. The door closed behind him. In the observation room, monitors showed Morrison's vital signs. His heart rate was already elevated, but that was normal before a stressful situation. The first scenario began. Morrison found himself back home on Earth, but something was wrong. His family and friends were there, but they looked at him with disgust and hatred. We never loved you, his mother said. You were always a disappointment. We only pretended to care, his best friend added. Everyone thinks you're pathetic. Morrison felt the words hit him like physical blows. This was his deepest fear, that the people he loved had never really cared about him. But he forced himself to think logically. This isn't real, he said out loud. My real family loves me. This is just the test trying to hurt me. The scenario changed. Now Morrison was completely alone on a space station. The monitors showed that everyone else in the galaxy had died. He was the last living being in the universe, doomed to float alone forever. Morrison felt the crushing weight of absolute isolation. Humans were social creatures. Being completely alone was a special kind of torture. But he started talking to himself, creating imaginary conversations, finding ways to stay mentally active. Okay, this is really lonely, he said. But people have survived solitary confinement before. I can handle this. Hours seemed to pass, then days, then months. Morrison felt his sanity beginning to fray at the edges, but he held on by creating mental projects, telling himself stories, exercising to stay busy. The test escalated. Morrison found himself watching his family die because of choices he had made. His sister died in a car accident because he had borrowed her safe car. His parents died in a fire because he hadn't visited them when he should have. This scenario was harder. Morrison felt overwhelming guilt and grief. But again, he forced himself to remember reality. My sister is alive and safe, he said through tears. My parents are fine. This is designed to make me feel guilty for things that never happened. The scenarios became more creative and cruel. Morrison experienced decades of meaningless existence, where nothing he did mattered and every day was exactly the same. He lived through watching his entire species become slaves to alien masters. He experienced being trapped in social situations where everyone constantly rejected and humiliated him. Each scenario pushed him closer to his breaking point. The isolation scenario made him want to scream. The meaninglessness scenario made him feel empty inside. The social rejection scenario made him angry and hurt, but Morrison kept fighting. When faced with meaningless existence, he created his own meaning by setting small goals and celebrating tiny victories. When trapped in social rejection, he focused on maintaining his own self-worth regardless of what others thought. The final scenario was the worst. Morrison was shown a version of reality where humans were kept as pets by advanced aliens. Humans had no rights, no freedom, no chance to grow or achieve anything. They were fed and cared for, but treated like amusing animals. Morrison watched his species living in comfortable cages, never allowed to reach their potential. It was a life without dignity or purpose. The aliens were kind but condescending, like humans caring for beloved dogs. This scenario broke through Morrison's defenses. The idea of humanity being reduced to pets was horrifying. But instead of giving up, Morrison started planning. Okay, he said, if this is the situation, then I need to find a way to change it. Maybe I can't fix it immediately, but I can work on it slowly. Show the aliens that humans are more intelligent than they think. Prove that we deserve better treatment. Even in the worst possible scenario, Morrison was still trying to find solutions. After what felt like years of psychological torture, the test finally ended. Morrison found himself back in the White Chamber, sitting in the chair. He was exhausted, emotionally drained, and covered in sweat. The door opened. Dr. Nex was waiting outside with medical teams, ready to help another broken test subject. Morrison stood up slowly. His legs were shaky, and his eyes were red from crying, but he was still functional. "That was rough," he said to Dr. Nex. "Really, really rough, but we've been through worse." Dr. Nex stared at him in amazement. You survived." "Yeah," Morrison said. "It was the hardest thing I've ever experienced. But humans don't break easily, even when you know exactly how to hurt us." In the observation room, alien representatives sat in stunned silence. They had just watched a human survive psychological scenarios designed specifically to destroy human minds. Morrison walked past them with tired but steady steps. "What's for lunch?" he asked his teammates. "Fighting off existential dread makes me hungry." The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. For 3 hours, representatives from dozens of species had been reviewing the data from Lieutenant Morrison's test. The silence was heavy with the weight of changing everything they thought. They knew about intelligence and civilization. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the chamber with a holographic display showing her analysis. She had spent the last week studying not just the human test results, but the psychological profiles of every species in galactic society. "The results force us to ask a difficult question," she began. "What does it really mean to be psychologically advanced?" Council leader Prax, an ancient being from the peaceful Altarian species, spoke first. "Dr. Vasquez, are you suggesting that our understanding of mental fitness is wrong?" "Not wrong," Elena replied. "Incomplete. We've been measuring psychological fitness based on stability and logical thinking. But the universe isn't stable or logical. It's chaotic and unpredictable." She activated her holographic display. It showed a comparison chart of different species and their homeworlds. "Look at this pattern," Elena said. "Every species that failed the original test comes from what we call garden worlds, planets with stable climates, predictable weather, few natural disasters, and limited dangerous wildlife." The chart showed world after world of peaceful, controlled environments. Villanos Prime with its controlled weather, Coven with its organized military society, Keth Prime with its mathematical precision. "These worlds created highly advanced civilizations," Elena continued. "But they did it by eliminating chaos and unpredictability. Your species became psychologically specialized for order." General Corax shifted uncomfortably. "There is nothing wrong with order and discipline." "You're absolutely right," Elena agreed. "Order and discipline are wonderful things. They let you build amazing technology, create peaceful societies, develop complex art and science. But they also made you vulnerable to chaos." She changed the display to show test results. "When faced with impossible scenarios, ordered minds try to apply logical solutions. When logic doesn't work, they break down. It's not a weakness, it's just specialization." Professor Kim spoke up, "But humans succeeded. What makes them different?" Elena smiled. "Humans come from what the Galactic Classification System calls a Class 12 Death World, but we're not the only ones." The display changed again, showing a map of the galaxy with highlighted systems. "There are 847 known intelligent species in our galaxy. Of those, 63 species evolved on worlds classified as death worlds, planets that are barely habitable for intelligent life." She zoomed in on specific systems. "The Krex from the volcanic world of Infernus. The Tide Riders from the water world Tempest, where storms never stop. the stonewalkers from the high-gravity world crusher. All of these species are considered primitive by galactic standards because they have less advanced technology, Council Leader Prax pointed out. Exactly, Elena said. They spent so much energy just surviving that they didn't have time to develop advanced civilizations. But look at this data. The display showed psychological profiles. Every Deathworld species shows the same traits: high stress tolerance, rapid adaptation to changing conditions, ability to function during crisis situations, and something we call chaos resilience, the ability to maintain mental stability when reality becomes unpredictable. Dr. Nex was taking detailed notes. Are you suggesting these primitive species are actually more psychologically advanced? I'm suggesting they're differently advanced, Elena replied. Garden World species developed internal complexity, advanced thinking, sophisticated technology, complex social structures. Deathworld species developed external adaptability, the ability to handle whatever the universe throws at them. She showed video footage from the human test results. When Captain Torres started laughing during the impossible scenarios, it wasn't because he was crazy. Laughter is a human stress response that helps maintain psychological flexibility during crisis situations. The chamber erupted in quiet discussions. Species representatives were talking among themselves, reviewing their own psychological testing programs. Dr. Vasquez, said Ambassador Elan of the Centauri, what are you proposing we do with this information? Elena took a deep breath. I propose we completely restructure how we evaluate species for advancement. Instead of testing for stability and logical thinking, we should test for adaptability and crisis management. That would change everything, Council Leader Prax said. Yes, it would, Elena agreed. Right now, we advance species based on their ability to create order. But the universe is fundamentally chaotic. Black holes appear without warning. Stars explode. Entire systems can be destroyed by cosmic events. Maybe we should advance species based on their ability to handle that chaos. She activated a new display showing current galactic policies. Our current system promotes species that are good at maintaining peaceful, stable civilizations. But what happens when those civilizations face a real crisis? Something they can't solve with technology or logic. They break down, Dr. Nex said quietly. Like our test subjects. Exactly, Elena said. But Deathworld species, they adapt. They find ways to survive and even thrive in impossible conditions. General Korak stood up. Are you saying the Corvani are weak? Not weak, Elena replied. Specialized. The Corvani are incredible warriors when the rules are clear and the enemy is defined. But chaos warfare, where nothing makes sense and reality keeps changing, would be harder for you. She looked around the chamber. Every species here has incredible strengths. The Keth can solve mathematical problems that would take humans centuries. The Villani understand psychology better than any other species. The Altarians have created the most peaceful society in the galaxy. But when faced with true chaos, scenarios where your specialized skills don't work, you struggle. That's not a failure. It's just the result of successful specialization. Council Leader Prax was quiet for a long moment. Dr. Vasquez, are you recommending we change our entire advancement system? I'm recommending we expand it, Elena said. Instead of having one path to advancement based on creating order, we should have multiple paths. Some species advance by mastering technology. Others advance by mastering adaptability. She showed a new organizational chart. Imagine a galactic society where Garden World species handle long-term planning, technological development, and stable governance. Meanwhile, Deathworld species handle crisis response, exploration of dangerous regions, and contact with unpredictable phenomena. A complementary system, Professor Kim said thoughtfully. Exactly, Elena replied. Instead of everyone trying to become the same type of advanced civilization, we recognize that different types of advancement serve different purposes. Dr. Nex stood up. This would require rewriting thousands of years of galactic policy. Maybe, Elena said. Or maybe we just need to add new categories. Keep the current system for species that excel at creating order. Add new systems for species that excel at managing chaos. She looked directly at the camera recording the session. There are 63 Deathworld species in our galaxy. Most of them are struggling to meet advancement requirements designed for garden world civilizations. But maybe they don't need to become like us. Maybe we need to learn from them. The chamber fell silent again. Representatives were processing the implications of Elena's proposal. Dr. Vasquez, Council Leader Prax said finally, "You are suggesting that our definition of advanced is too narrow." "I'm suggesting that advancement isn't one thing," Elena replied. "It's many things. The ability to create peace is advancement. The ability to survive chaos is also advancement. The ability to build perfect technology is advancement. The ability to adapt when that technology fails is also advancement." She deactivated her display and looked around the chamber. "Humans passed your test not because we're better than other species, but because we're different. We've spent millions of years learning to laugh at impossible situations, because laughter helps us survive them. And now," she continued, "maybe it's time for the galaxy to learn that there's more than one way to be advanced. Maybe it's time to recognize that when reality breaks down, you don't need more logic, you need more laughter." Council Leader Prax called for a recess. As representatives filed out of the chamber, Elena could hear dozens of conversations starting. The Corvani were discussing chaos warfare tactics. The Keth were calculating new probability models. The Villani were planning psychological studies of Deathworld species. Captain Torres approached Elena. "Think they'll actually change the system?" Elena smiled. "I think they'll have to. The universe is too big and too chaotic for any one type of thinking to handle everything. Maybe it's time we stopped trying to make everyone the same and started celebrating our differences." As she gathered her data files, Elena looked out the observation window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there were 62 other Deathworld species, waiting for their chance to show the galaxy what they could do. The universe was about to become a much more interesting place.